This is Dr. Lawrence Jones to discuss milk prices in order 33, which is Michigan, order 30, which is Wisconsin, and order 1, which is New York, because there seems to be a question as to whether the Michigan milk is particularly low compared to the other orders, or how does milk prices actually compare to each other. Because this is going to be a very long and potentially technical video, I thought I would give you the short answers right at the very beginning of the video, which is if we set Michigan to be at a base of 0, Wisconsin currently is about 67 cents ahead of Michigan, and New York, or order 1, is about 1 cent negative. So there's very little difference between Michigan and New York, but Wisconsin is in the lead at this point, and that's because they're in an extremely favorable position of the high class 3 utilization, and right now class 3 is trading very well, and it should close in January about 1704, which is a very good number. And the other thing that I'm going to try to convince you of is that you should not be comparing PPD numbers across the different federal milk marketing orders. They only tell part of the story, and focusing on those is going to absolutely mislead you. Now let's get started at describing why things are as they are in the different orders. There are two things that influence your milk check, and these are which federal order you're in and which county you are within that federal order. So order 33, I've selected the county of Ingham County in Michigan, and for order 30 I've selected Dane County in Wisconsin, and for order 1 I've selected Wyoming County and New York. Each county in each state has class 1 differential, which is adjusted for location. These can be found by going to the Federal Registry and looking in the general provisions for the federal milk marketing order. So as we start looking at this, it turns out that milk in order 33 is based in Cleveland, Ohio, and that has an order adjustment of $2. Order 30 is in Cook County, Illinois, and that has an order adjustment of $1.80. And order 1 is in Boston, Massachusetts, which is $3.25. So when you see milk prices released, they are reflective of those particular locations and not what the milk price is actually on the dairy. And the reason that this becomes important is if we look at order 33, for example, it's got an order adjustment of the $2, but for Ingham County it's $1.80, which puts that county in a zone that we call minus 20. For Dane County, it's in a zone of minus 5, so very little deduction. But in Wyoming County, we're in a zone of a minus $1.05. So right away we start seeing that within the different federal milk marketing orders, there are different location adjustments, and they're spread out differently depending upon where they wanted class 1 milk. If we look at this all the way to the end, what this means is if the PPD, and I'll explain more of this later, if the PPD in order 33 was minus 93 cents, that means the on-farm PPD for Ingham, Michigan is going to be $1.13 negative. If we compare that all the way to the right for order 1, that's $1.05 negative on a PPD announced at minus 9 cents. So that on-farm PPD is $1.14 negative. And so the PPDs on-farm for order 33 and order 1 were almost identical, even though the announced PPDs were almost 90 cents difference. This is a little bit different in order 30, and we're going to continually see that order 30 is different from the other two because it's a very heavy cheese order, and it's a minus 40, so its on-farm PPD is minus 45. So one of the first things that we notice is that the announced PPD is not very reflective of what's actually going on the farm. And so when we look at on-farm PPD, order 33 and order 1 are almost identical. So let's remind us what these federal orders look like. Up here in the Northeast, the blue color is federal, which takes in the most of New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. Order 33 would be in the central here, and this is with Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan. And then order 30 would be mainly Wisconsin and Minnesota. The first step of calculating your milk check is calculation of fluid milk price. And this was set up because milk that's harvested today could actually be sold as early as tomorrow. And so the processors need to know what price they have to charge the consumer because it's not sitting on the inventory for very long. And so the way that this happens is the month before. So here we're looking at November 2019. The government goes out and surveys the different processors to look at what happened with prices that week. And so this is a 2-week period. In this case, it ended on November 9th and November 16th. And these are the commodity prices that we saw. So about $2 for butter, cheese was $2.20, and non-fat dry milk about $1.15. They put these into the formulas, and then on the following Wednesday, they announced the advanced prices. And if we look at these formulas, it's not important that we understand what they are, but kind of how they come together. So here's the formula for calculating class 1 price. There are two things that pop out of this. It is the skim price, which you probably know by now that that's the average of class 3 and class 4 skim prices plus 74 cents. We don't want to get into these kinds of details, but there's a skim price that's released, which is $11.61, and an advanced butterfat price, which is $2.32, and those numbers are true across the country, so it doesn't matter which federal order you're in. But what happens is if we look at order 33, we now go and add that $2 that we saw before, that order adjustment, to that class 1 price to get us $13.61. In Wisconsin, we add that $1.80 and we end up with a class 1 of $13.41 for skim. And then in the Northeast, we get $14.86 with that $3.25 being added to it. So here we start seeing that the skim price for class 1 is higher in Federal Order 1, and that's because they really want to drive class 1 processing in Federal Order 1. Now the butterfat price, as I said, was the same across all orders. The difference is now they take and add to the butterfat price 1/10 of this. So for the $2 you add 20 cents and you get a butterfat price of $2.34. In Wisconsin you add 18 cents because that's 1/10 of the $1.80, and then in Boston you add 32 cents to get this $2.35. What all that means is the class 1 announced prices now are $21.33 for Michigan, $21.13 for Wisconsin, and $22.58 for Federal Order 1. And so again, we start seeing all the way through this that class 1 price for Boston is nearly $1.20, 30 cents higher than the other orders. And so this was an attempt to get more class 1 processing in this particular order. So now we go to step 2, which is calculation of class and component values. So this kind of starts the same way. The government does a survey of all the different processing, and this time it's for the entire month of December. And so when we're done surveying the month, we get the component values for each of the commodities. So butter is around $1.98, cheese around $2.05, and then the class and component numbers come out on the following Wednesday, and these have to be reported by the 5th of the month, and so that's why they're always coming out on Wednesday, and it's usually in the next month, but sometimes the month will end so that it's the week before. So these go through again these kind of formulas, and what happens is that the other solids price is defined as 13 cents. The butterfat is $2.20, and protein is $3.65. Again, this is across all federal orders. And so if we start piecing this together now, that in Michigan, this is our class 1 price with these component prices. In Wisconsin, we have a 20-cent lower class 1 price, but exactly the same components. And in Boston, we have a slightly higher class 1, but with exactly the same components. Part of the reason for having different federal orders is that these orders have different processing capabilities and different utilization of the different milk classes. And so again, these are really distinct units. And so if we kind of dig into what's different about them, this is the product utilization for Michigan. It is 37% class 1, whereas Wisconsin, it's around 13% class 1, and in Boston, it's 32%. So Michigan actually has a higher class 1. Now what makes Wisconsin so different is low class 1 is the fact that it is very high class 3. And so if you look at Wisconsin, they're almost 70% class 3. And so in periods when class 3 milk is very high in price, Wisconsin is going to look very good. In times when class 3 is depressed, Wisconsin prices are going to be severely depressed. The other thing that will impact your price a little bit is the actual components of the region, and in fact we see that across these regions are all about 4% fat, about 3.2 protein, with the order 1 being particularly low at 3.18 compared to the other two at 3.22 and 3.23. If you go back and look at the amount of revenue collected, it's going to be $20.56 for Michigan, $20.84 for Wisconsin, and $20.69 for Boston. This is probably the truest reflection of actual milk price. The problem is these have different component values, so it's not standardized in terms of component, but overall there was more money collected per hundredweight in Wisconsin than either Michigan or New York. Now there are two little items when they do the calculations that are on the tally sheet, and these get into the weeds as to what they mean, and all I want to do is to show you that there are some differences between the federal milk marketing orders, and it doesn't matter exactly what these numbers are, it's just the impact of them. But if we look at the sheet where they calculate the revenues, for example, in Michigan there's 2 cents taken away for what we call location differential in class 1. In Wisconsin they actually add the 22 cents, and in Boston they take away 12 cents. Also in the bottom half is a net producer location adjustment. So this is kind of two sides of the balance here, and for Michigan it's a positive 7 cents, for Wisconsin it's a positive 8 cents, and for New York it's a positive 56 cents. What's important is that we actually come up with a sum of this. So when you look at the milk revenue collected, it's going to be the milk revenue plus an additional 5 cents that goes to in the Michigan market. It's an additional 30 cents in the Wisconsin market, and another 44 cents in the Boston Order 1 market. So if we tie this all together, we have revenue collected of $20.56 plus the 5 cents gives us $20.61 of actual revenue collected into that region. For Wisconsin it's $20.14, and for The order one is $20.13. So Wisconsin and New York are right on top of each other now, with there being a little bit of a uh, discount for the Michigan. Now the problem is we need to look at how many components were generated in that milk that was collected, because that is going to impact kind of the overall value. And so the third step of this is to calculate the producer price differential. PPD is something that is highly complicated, but at the same time highly simple. So let's try to keep it simple here. But let's start with a typical milk check. And so if any of you take your milk check for December, this should be on them. That butterfat was $2.19, protein was $3.65, and other solids were 13. Now what's interesting about this is if you happen to be shipping 3.5 milk, 2.99 protein, and 5.69 other solids, this portion of your milk check would be worth $19.37. That is exactly the price of class 3 milk. So the top part of your check is the class 3 price. Think about the PPD as the fact we have a total amount of money that is being collected, but we're going to pay you out the class 3 price in the top part of your check here. So that is how PPD can actually be thought of. It is the total revenue collected minus the components that were paid out. And so that's just kind of like we've collected this money, we paid a certain amount to you, and in certain months we pay you too much, in other months we don't pay you enough. And so a negative PPD just means that you received more money into your components than was actually collected, and a positive PPD means you received less money in your components. So even though it's counterintuitive, a negative PPD is actually a good thing in most cases. It represents higher milk prices. So if we look at how this was collected, we've got $20.61 as we've seen before. We paid out $21.54. That means we've got to come up with 93 cents to balance that out. And so the PPD for Michigan was minus 93 cents. For Wisconsin, we collected $20.14. We paid out $21.54. So that means that there was a minus 40 cent PPD. And then likewise in New York, there's a minus 9 cent PPD. So these PPDs are highly different, but the total collected numbers are not significantly different. It's just the way that the math is done in the particular region. So let's get to the final piece. Let's actually calculate a milk check for somebody in Ingham County in Michigan. So this is going to be their fat, protein, other solids price, which is everywhere. The producer price differential is minus 93 cents. As we've said before, this county is in the minus 20 zone, so we put minus 20 cents in here. And when we're all done, and if we assume that this farm is producing a 383258 other solids, their blend price will be $19.67. Now if we go to Wisconsin, the same thing. Wisconsin is order 30, which is a minus 40 cents. Dane County is a minus 5 cent location adjustment. And that same farm making 383258 other solids is going to have a blend price of $20.34. And finally, in our New York herd, it was in the minus $1.05 region. And so this herd making the same components is making $19.67. So let's bring all this into one sheet. So here is our December PPDs that were announced in the regions. Here is our on-farm PPD, and the way you would get that is we take that location adjustment, add it to the PPD to get our on-farm PPD, and then we get our final milk price for 383258 other solids. So this tells the real story of how do milk prices compare between Michigan, Wisconsin, and New York. Michigan was at $19.67. New York was $19.66. So there's only a penny difference in blend price between Michigan and New York. Wisconsin is higher at this point at $20.34. So it does have the higher price of these three regions. But I want to make these observations which kind of bring all that back together. The Federal Milk Marketing Order PPD does not tell the entire story of milk price. So if you're going to compare the Order 1 to the Order 33, that's a comparison that you shouldn't do, because there are more things that actually counterbalance that. Wisconsin price is higher now because of the higher class 3 price. This will change in the future. It's not always that class 3 price is high. There are times when class 3 price is particularly low, in which case Wisconsin is going to have a low price. They just happen to be in a very favorable position right now with this recent run up in cheese price. But that wasn't true a year or two ago when cheese was trading at $1.50 versus the $1.80 that it's trading at today. Now Michigan has fewer adjustments in the revenue side, so that means that it will have a lower PPD, and we could almost always expect Michigan to have a lower PPD, but that doesn't mean it has a lower on-farm PPD. Finally, these blend price numbers do not take into many other things that are on the milk check. So this is the very top left side of your check. This is the value of the milk before other adjustments. So all quality premiums, market adjustments, volume bonuses, marketing, CWT charges, hauling, and fuel charges are not in this blend price. And so those are kind of co-op marketing things, and those can differ widely from farms in the same county. What I'm focusing on is the blend price that every farm in that county should receive. Now, if we look at the final slide for typical Michigan blend price and income, again, that 383258 herd that we were talking about, the butterfat right now makes up $8.34 of the final price. The protein is the one for December that just really drove milk price, so $11.68. And then the other solids added a 77-cent to the milk price, but the fluid price is actually negative. What this means is that for every extra pound of milk that you produce without an extra pound of components, you're actually losing money. So you want to have very high components and very low levels of fluid milk, and that's going to be true anytime that the PPD is negative. If you're interested in following more along the milk pricing and milk prices, there is a website you can subscribe to called thecwtgroup.com, where there is a weekly podcast of milk price and pricing information, and also is a blog that allows users to discuss what's going on in the milk market.